something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we
Welcome to Occupy TV. My name is Sue Sierra Lupe, and I am your host today. I have Terrell Purvis, Terry, to those of us who know him very well, and he's our guest today. Welcome to the show, Terry.
Thank you.
In real life, you wear many, many hats beyond Occupy, and including Occupy. Could you tell us about them?
Yes, I'm a firefighter. I work in the wildland environment. I work rescue also. I also work with FEMA on natural disaster support. So we go down there and work as same thing as rescue and medics, and also as wildland firefighters.
Mm-hmm. And how is it that you came to Occupy?
Oh, one day I was coming down. My friend called me and asked if I had an extra tent and sleeping bag he could borrow because he was going to be camping down at the Washington Jefferson Park. Mm-hmm. And I didn't quite understand why he was coming down there yet, but I was like, sure, of course, I'll bring it down and meet you down there. So I came down there and ended up spending a half a day there. Ended up spending every day there since that day. Mm-hmm. Pretty much, I ran into a movement that spoke everything that I've been thinking about for years. So I decided that I would involve myself.
So this was in the end of October.
Yes.
And can you tell me about the conditions of the camp at that time?
Yeah, the conditions in the camp were lacking at that time. The powers that be took the heat away from everyone, so we saw a lot of respiratory and viral conditions going on, mm-hmm. and which is typical of that type of environment. Like I said, I've worked with FEMA before and seen FEMA camps, and a lot of this typical sickness that runs through the camps, things like that. So,
what was happening with the campers and their dynamics?
Meaning as?
Like what did you see socially? What was happening?
I saw community spirit. I saw that no matter what the conditions they were in, their spirit was still high. Mm-hmm. They believed. Mm-hmm. They believed that it's time for change, and so it didn't matter what the council or the police or anything threw at them. They were going to stand there and be there for what they believed in. So it was an awesome community spirit.
And what kind of people were there?
All different kinds of people. There wasn't one type of people. That's the greatest part about it. That's the best part about Occupy, is that all of us are coming from different backgrounds, different places, and different parts of our lives. Mm-hmm. But we're all coming together with one general understanding, is that things need to change, and that there's only one way for that to happen, and that's for us to stand up and make that change. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of everybody doing their own little part, wherever they come from. Like my part's probably now more so in the medical field than wildland, but this is what I can bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And so everybody, like lawyers and doctors and such, like in our medical program, we have an awesome staff of doctors and nurses that are volunteering their time. Mm-hmm. Doesn't take very much. Everybody's volunteering a little bit of their time. We've been able to create a huge community atmosphere that everyone's taken care of.
Mm-hmm. So when you were there, what were the kind of things that you ended up doing initially?
Initially, I always call it just being dad. Taking care of Band-Aids, scrapes, bruises, bumps, and rolled ankles from the muddy environment, the viral colds, general sickness like that. Mm-hmm. Then I ended up getting part of the peacekeepers and mm-hmm. working with de-escalation in there. After a while, I earned a respect with the community, and so when issues arose, it wasn't a matter of us telling people what they have to do. It was just a matter of talking to people what should be done. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome. It was something I loved being involved with.
So there's a real difference than just telling someone you will behave this way, as opposed to you would be more successful with the message you're trying to deliver if you did it a different way.
Exactly. And all we were basically doing is just changing how we reacted and how we acted out on what we wanted to say. Mm-hmm. And if we do it in a more convenient standard for everyone else, it's easier to communicate. Mm-hmm. And communication, as we all know, is the key to everything. So.
Yep. Very true. So did you see a real difference in what people brought in with the homeless as opposed to some of the activists that had homes for health?
I think what had happened with our Occupy is that we just noticed that the people of Occupy that are involved in the organization noticed this need for the homeless society within our community. And it was hard not to react in that way, and not to react to protect and show them and say, this is just another problem that we're trying to point out to our government, is that we shouldn't have this problem. Our healthcare is way out of whack. We're paying like $8,000 per person per capita, supposedly, for healthcare in this country, and yet over half of America doesn't have healthcare, doesn't go see a doctor, doesn't get dental treatment. In other countries, they're paying about $4,000, and they have per person, and they have great medical care and full coverage. So there's definitely some issues we need to handle in this country.
Yeah.
I think that the corporations and the insurance companies have a little too much control. I think it's time that the people take that control back.
Yeah. I saw, when I was working in the medical tent, a number of grave medical conditions that had been going untreated for a long period of time and were becoming more and more serious. And that caused me concern. Did you share that experience?
I did. There were cases of people, with diabetes and things that they had never been seen for, skin conditions that, like a spider bite. I remember, this lady had 6 spider bites on her hands and hadn't gone anywhere for 2 weeks. The type of spider it was, I'm surprised that she didn't lose her hand, honestly. If it was in a wildland environment, I would have had her in a hospital within minutes, as fast as I could.
Right.
But she had been living with the pains and the conditions of that spider bite for 2 weeks before she even came to see us.
Yeah. And she's fine now.
And she's fine now.
Saw her a
We
couple
got
of
her the
days ago.
antibiotics, and she's doing great. So,
Yep.
those are conditions that our homelessness deal with on an everyday basis because of the prejudices set up by our hospital and our clinic systems. And I hope that's one of the changes that we make, and that's something that I believe Occupy Eugene stands up for. So,
I noticed a lot of other people, some of the younger kids that were there, as well as the elderly people that were used to just living on the street, were initially very standoffish about coming in and getting any assistance for us, and that changed. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think once people found out what we were doing, and they actually had to see it, come in and see it for themselves. Once they saw what we were doing and they got the vibe of our community, the outpouring of support just started coming, and it's still coming. Every day I'm getting a new email or a phone call, someone saying, "Hey, I want to be involved in your program." And it's promising. It really is. I love our community. I love the way that they stand up for what we believe in, and how they just form to support whatever's right. And that's why I believe this program is going to take off in this community. And that's what Occupy Eugene has brought to the community, was a way to do that. And the way that we function is an appropriate way to handle these type of situations.
When you came to the camp, did you just move right into camping?
No, well, yeah, when I signed up for 2 days a week, 4 hours a day, 2 days a week. I said, well, I can do that much, That's my normal, typical personality. I can volunteer this much, But I had all day for 2 months to do it every day. I had all that time off. Typically, I just spend the time having fun, and then I did. I actually spent this time having fun, because during this, that's what I mean about the community spirit of this camp, is that I had fun the whole time I was there.
And you stayed a lot longer than your shift.
I stayed, those 4. Well, I worked that first shift, and then I said, okay, well, I'll stay through the night, because the other medic that was currently on site was sick. So I said, well, I'll just go ahead and stay the night, then it's no big deal. I'll cover it for you. And then it turned into the morning, and I was okay. I wasn't tired, because I'm typically used to working long shifts. So I'm like, okay, I'll work. And I believe you showed up the next day. And so I said, okay, I'm going home. And I went home and slept for 6 hours. And the first thing I thought about when I got up was, I got to get back down to the camp. And so then I just brought a tent and said, I'm just going to stay down there so I don't have to drive back and forth. So that's how it started. And it started a thing, not just a program, but it also started a different way in my life.
What do
as
you
a
mean?
person. I guess I was the typical AA 1% mindset, about the homeless and dirty, stinking hippie, got to get a job, you know? Because I always felt like if you needed something, you should go to work. That's how I was raised, you know? So I always thought of different angles, but I never really thought about the disabilities that can prevent you from doing so, you know, from getting that type of assistance and things, you know, whether it be your health or your mental health or, you know, from coming from a homeless situation. So now that I put myself in the homeless situation and live with them side by side, it's a matter of survival. And that's what you have to think about, is that these people are trying to survive first.
Right.
And if we can bring those resources to them, they're going to go a long way. They're going to use the resources. It's not like they're trying to hide from society. What they're hiding from is the attitudes that society portrays to them. And so if we can change that attitude, I think what we'd have is more valuable members to our society.
So it sounds like you've seen some of those changes already.
I've absolutely seen changes in people. I have 7 people living with me right now that were part of Occupy Camp that were homeless before. And all of them right now are either going to school or they have promising job lead. So every one of them just needed an extra hand to get back to the next step to being functional people of the society or this community.
Were they drawn to Occupy because it was a camp or because it was a movement or both?
I think it was both. I honestly, you know, I think that over half of them probably in the beginning just came because it was a camp, somewhere safe for them to be, and, you know, and someone to help take care of them, you know.
Right.
I think that's what drew them, but I think the more and more that they heard and learned about our movement, the more and more they believed in what they were there for. And it stopped being just because they were there to camp. It started being, this is a movement I want to be involved with.
How did these people survive before Occupy existed?
I personally don't know. I mean, a lot are going to result back to crime and things like that because that's what they have to do to survive. It's not a matter of a choice that they want to do. It's a matter that they have no food. And the way that our programs are set up today, there's all kinds of restrictions that could prevent over half the people that are out there from even being in the building that they're going to, whether they have animals or they have mental health issues or drug addiction issues, alcoholism issue, you know,
They have stuff they're tired of getting stolen.
Or they have a faith-based program and they're not religious, they don't want to go to church, they can't go to that program. You know, and that's so we're taking away the programs for over 50% of the people that are out there. And so once we start making those programs available to them and being able to work with their disabilities, whatever disability that may be, I think we'll make promising changes in that epidemic.
Do you see for the way that the health of the homeless is right now as that a broad-reaching, like an epidemic waiting to happen, as some people have said? Or
Well, yeah, I think that, you know, the difference is all our programs were developed 10, 15 years ago, and our homeless society at that point was basically male men. Men that were in their ages of 30s and such and back from the military. That was typically our homeless population. Today it's no longer so. Now we have whole families out there and a high single female rate out there.
Right.
And I can't tell you the propensity for abuse and things that can happen out there.
Yeah.
So we need to stop that. We're too rich of a country to have people living on the streets here, and it's just a reality check. And that's what Occupy Eugene did for our community, was give them a reality check and say, look, this problem is right underneath your nose. All you need to do is open your eyes. Let's do something about this. And we can. And that's the benefit of, you know, meeting with the other street medics from around the nation, is that each person in their individual community is going to start this very same program. So that way, hopefully, we can spread this across the nation and make healthcare more of a basic right, which is what it is. Healthcare is a right for a human being. I don't see it as why it's privatized. I have no idea, but
Right.
It's a basic right for every United States citizen to have healthcare and to be known that their health is being taken care of. So that needs to change.
Yep. So you and Nurse Nancy were sitting on your shift and came up with this fabulous program that you're just mentioning.
Absolutely. I mean, we were discussing it, you know, and I've come from a mindset just like she does, is that, you know, we're sitting here talking about a problem within our community, but we haven't come up with a solution yet. You know, and it's always easy to point out problems, but
Right.
let's bring a solution to the table. So Nancy and I came up with a street medic program for our community and decided that we would implement that to be able to carry on the services to the homeless or the needy, not just homeless people, but the low-income people,
Right.
to service our community and to provide the health care for them, the basic health care needs that they need. Because we noticed that as we provided those basic health care needs, the spirit of those people that we're helping was growing and getting stronger and brighter. So it's a beautiful thing to see people change like that. And and I think, I always tell people in our program that, when they're new, that, over 70% of what we're doing is just letting someone know that we care. I said, because that's really all they really need, is to let someone know it's there to care. And they cling to you. I mean, they really do. They cling to you, and they're like, what should I do about this? And they start asking. Now all of a sudden you're a counselor. Right. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what our community should be about. It used to be about a community raise a child, and these are children.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. Like I said, when I felt like I'm dad, that's the hat that I wear while I'm there, is because these are just children that are lost, and we just need to help them find their way right back to the right way.
I know it was very exciting to see some of the younger people come in and learn to trust. And then as soon as you saw them again, their eyes would light up. And some of these kids are very young. And there's an adult I can trust. And they would they would get so excited.
Someone they can honestly talk to.
Yeah.
And not have any of those barriers that society represses upon them. I'm not telling them what they have to do or how they have to live. I'm just showing them how I live.
Yeah. It seemed that once we dealt with whatever medical issue that brought them into the tent was dealt with, then they would just come by just to talk.
Yeah,
That's all they wanted to do was just talk.
We had a problem with people hanging out.
I know. We're so interesting.
They wanted to see what was going on.
Yep.
It was awesome to see it. And, and that's great for just Occupy, and I think that if one thing we can bring to this table all the way across the board is that community spirit, and that's how we need to live. That's how our nation needs to pick up and live, and we need to start remembering what those values are again.
So where's the Street Medic program now?
As of right now, we're holding clinics at Occupy Eugene 5, and we do that on Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays it's noon to 2, and Tuesdays it's 5 to 7. Thursdays we also have a clinic. It's a triage clinic only, though, no doctors present. It's just nurses and medics. But you can come there. It's from 5 to 7 also. I do believe we're going to change the Monday clinic to Sunday in the Park clinic. And we're going to occupy a place somewhere within this community with a medical tent. And we're going to provide care there wherever we are. So that way we remind this community that there's still needs out there that need to be filled.
Yep.
And that we are still here.
How do you foresee that part of the program proceeding?
The Occupy part?
Yeah.
I see it as a way, just like I said, just to remind people that Occupy is still here. And that the problems haven't gone away. And just because they closed the park doesn't mean they closed our Occupy down. We're not gone.
Right.
We're here, and we're just getting bigger.
We have 2 offices now.
Yeah, we have 2 offices now. Watch out.
Right.
And are actually we're also tying in with some of our local community organizations that are willing to work with us. So we're just growing, and we're going to keep growing, and eventually not only the community, but our government's going to see that we have something proactive going here, and they're going to either take a part of it or look really bad for not doing so.
So your Street Medic program has its own name now.
It does. We are called Cascadia Street Medic Program.
Great.
Pretty happy about that. We came up with that name last night. We also came up with the mission statement, which I don't know right off the top of my head right now.
But it's wonderful.
But it's very nice. And if y'all want to see it, you can go on the Facebook and see it there. We've listed it there. So, but great group of people that we're working with in this program, and it's going to grow. And we've got people from across the nation that are interested in coming and training with us. And like I said, it's just growing, and we're all the way to New York now.
Right.
And we've got people coming here to train with us from New York. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed with it. So.
What about this upcoming emergency first aid certification?
Yeah, we're tied in with first aid, and we're going to offer an advanced rescue CPR and first aid class to the street medics. We're requiring that all the minimum qualifications, to stay with public health and such, is the first aid and CPR.
Right.
I just want to do the advanced rescue because they're going to be more on an active site than just someone random first aid.
Yeah.
So I needed a little more knowledge.
Yeah. Well, tell me what happened about tell me about the events surrounding the closing of the camp. You talked about the powers that be not allowing fires, and that's part of it.
Well, it came to the close. It's pretty logical. If you were sitting there within the camp and you were watching how the city council decided, okay, we're going to let you stay to the January 11th, and then the very next day we have lights put up and fences put up and all the heat taken away, and anything that you could come up with to make it a less attractive site, you would. That's what they were doing. Less convenient, annoying,
Constant police
presence, everything they could do to make everybody rattled.
Right.
And then all of a sudden in one night you have 6 cops there, and then in one night suddenly there's people fighting on each end of the park, not inside the park, on the outside parts of the park. And there are arguments, typically, the majority of them. And the event that you're talking about, that I don't know if I can talk too much about, but that actually they brought down the park for, I did not agree with what they're saying in the press. And I was the first medic on site with the police officer, who I haven't seen since that night, which is kind of interesting, but yet.
Yeah, there was a news report that said that the event happened inside of Occupy, which was untrue.
It was untrue. I mean, we go to technicalities there, but technically it happened over by a bridge, which is right on the outside skirt of the property. And, that's typical of people walking by and not agreeing with Occupy and starting screaming and meddling matches. But this particular individual was heavily intoxicated.
And had been asked to leave the park numerous times for a variety of reasons.
And the police had told me even after the incident that they were coming back to arrest him because he had an exclusion from the park for whatever reason.
Yep, and the next day it was gone.
Yeah, and the next day, all kinds of events happened since that time that, they wanted to close the park down, and that was just their way to do so. And what they did is they amplified that night to being more than what it was. And I don't agree with them. Anytime they want to cross notes, I'm willing to do so because I wrote down every incident for that night. So I'm just waiting for them to ask me.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that smooths over nicely.
Yeah, we kind of need to let that go. We need to have more respect for that person's family and not talk about that more in the city council meetings or on TV anymore. We just need to have more respect for the spirit of that person, and just let that go away.
Yeah. But many other people, their involvement in the camp resulted in their life being saved in many different ways. Can you talk about some of those?
Yeah. We dealt with a couple overdoses. And being the fact that they happened there, we were able to save their lives. Had they been somewhere else throughout the streets, they would have died. And one case in particular, I know that it was a life-changing event for that person because of the love that was shown to him from the community and the acceptance. Not just that he had OD'd. No one accepts, no, we don't. As Occupy, we don't accept drug use like that. But we accept persons for who they are.
Right.
And we see that as a problem that just needs to be dealt with. And it doesn't mean we shun him, we shun the problem. And that's what we did. And it brought such an amazing spirit to him that he decided to quit doing drugs and came to me for help with detox.
Yeah.
And so now he's drug-free because of such.
I saw him last week, actually.
Yeah, and it's cool. Every time I see him, he comes up and gives me a big hug and says, I love you, brother, man. I love you, too.
Yeah.
Because it's an awesome feeling to see someone change like that. And it's an awesome feeling just to be part of that. I'm glad I was there.
Yeah, it's a real honor to be part of that kind of change.
It is.
So, Occupy Camp is closed, but we're still moving on.
Well, the camp's closed, but
the
Occupy
camp
is not.
Yes, the camp is closed.
We are rolling on.
Occupy is not. And because of the homeless issue, even though the camp was closed, the city council continued to be involved.
Yeah, they did. They started a task force to deal with the problems of homelessness. And Mayor and Occupy Eugene's GA and the mayor asked me to be part of that council, so I am part of that task force.
Who else is on that task force?
Oh, about 50 people. I mean, I consider, I don't think I
rattle
can name
off
them all.
names, yeah. But from all walks of life.
From all walks of life. There was a few from the city council, a few from all the different organizations within the, I think, Lane County area.
So this is a task force to deal with the issue of homelessness.
Yeah, well, to deal with solutions. That's one thing we wanted to change inside the task force, is what we talked about as a group, is that we're not there to just talk about the issues. We wanted to come up with solutions, and we wanted action.
Have you heard any proposals so far?
We're not at that point yet. This next meeting we have, that's where we start bringing in proposals from our little subcommittees that we've developed.
Oh, how many subcommittees are there?
I think there's 5 subcommittees, and each dealing with a different issue of the homelessness.
And the one that you're on is?
Yeah, I'm the facilitator for the health issues, dealing with the health and welfare of people.
And that includes mental health?
Mental health, physical health, dental health, all of it.
Okay.
Where I think we're discuss and try to talk about most of it. Pretty much I think what we're trying to develop is a way to bring the resources to the people, which is exactly what we're doing in our Street Medic program. So I think it all ties in together.
Right. And you have a lot of different organizations represented there?
We do, yeah, from St. Vincent de Paul to Whitebird and EPD and Peace Health and the City Council. I can't remember all of them. There's tons. There's a website that you can go to on the City of Eugene site that deals with the mayor task force, and you can find out all the information there, and also get minutes or video of our conversations.
So where do you think that's going to go? I mean, they did have
I feel really positive about it. I didn't at first, honestly. I was sitting there, I thought, yeah, blah, blah. We're just going to sit here and talk about all the great things this community's been doing, and it's not enough, and how dare we,
Right.
But it wasn't like that at all. It was totally a misconception on my end. These people that have come to this task force have come here to try to make something happen. And so I really feel positive that they're going to make something happen. So if we just get the right proposals and the right solutions in front of this task force, as Occupy, and we bring the solutions to the task force, I believe they're going to follow them. I believe that they're going to do what they can to make this happen. I don't believe this is going to be one of those committees that just sit there and talks and then put it up on the shelf, whatever decisions we come up with. I think that the council is really interested in seeing something happen about this issue.
Do you have a history of working with political activism before?
I grew up from about 15 on, I live in Eugene, Oregon.
Right.
So I've had a lot of great movements come out of Eugene, Oregon, and I like being part. I'm tied into this community, and I think we all kind of on the same mindset on a lot of issues. So growing up, that's just what I grew up with, was those issues. And I've loved it ever since.
And now you're deep in.
I'm deep in now. Well, I think it took a time of maturity, a long time of growing up. It was great to be there and help out with the protest act of it, but I think the actual intellectual aspect of it, I wasn't always too keen into as I am today. I think that what that does is just take life to see what's going on, a little time in life to see what's going on with your government and the things around you before you realize, oh, wow. I better start saying something now.
Instead of just reacting, you're interacting.
Exactly. Instead of reacting to what someone's saying to me, I'm actually interacting and bringing my own set of skills and knowledge to this one.
Well, how do you see your future with Occupy is heading? You got a lot of avenues going on right now.
Yeah, I got a lot of things on my plate. I don't know where it's going to end. It's not going to end. The way in my mind, it's not going to end. This Occupy movement is going to keep going until this government changes. And I believe what's going to happen is the people are going to stand up and understand more and more about what we stand for. And the more that they understand, the more power of our people we're going to have. And the more people that we stand together is going to make change in this government. And that's what we need to do, and that's what Occupy is going to make happen.
Yeah.
And so I'm there until that happens.
Well, you're right now working really on the grassroots and the local community level, but you just went to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Washington, D.C. was awesome. We went there for a protest at Congress, and what happened is that about all the different states, we had pretty much one group of street medics represented there at our meeting. And all of us medics got together in the morning and shared stories and shared treatments and how we react to things according to the police and such. And in big environments like that, typically a police officer, they have a set of rules that they want our street medics to go by. And so we talk about those and what they want us to do. They give us contact numbers. But as far as the national movement of this program is that every one of these people are going to take back the same mindset that we have here back into their own communities. And I'm tied in with them through Facebook and email, and we're talking about the resources, helping them tie into the resources they have in their community to develop the same kind of program.
Like the Street Medic program?
The Street Medic program that we have here. Because these Street Medic around the nation already are basically there for protests and type events.
Right.
and providing care for homelessness. Over half of them are for that. So what we're developing is a tie-in to all the hospitals and clinics around the area so that we can provide that care at a better level, and a more extreme level, I would say.
Right. What kind of things did the cops talk to you about as a group that they wanted from the medics?
Just non-involvement. I mean, it's a typical attitude in the professional environment as a paramedic or fire or police, is that when there's protest being involved, we're not allowed to be part of that protest personally. We can't voice opinion. We can't get involved physically with the protests. We're just
so no carrying a sign or anything?
We're not carrying signs. The only thing we're carrying is medical equipment. And we're there to respond to anyone. We have to remember that we're not there just for the protesters. We're there for everyone. So even if a police officer goes down with pepper spray, I'll respond to it. So that's the role of a street medic. We're there for our community, and that's what we're bringing to the plate.
How does that feel to be involved in a movement that you can't protest in?
It's hard sometimes. But say they give us shifts. See, I'll work an 8-hour shift on one protest, and then that time off is the same thing as if I was at work. As soon as I take my work shirt off, it's my time.
Right.
So then I can grab my sign and get up in their face. Oh, excuse me.
In a gentlemanly way. Of course. Do you foresee there's a difference between your street medic and the Occupy medical. Do you see that as continuing to be a big division, or?
No, absolutely not. I think that Occupy Eugene, typically what I'm doing so far with the street medic program is using the medical committee that we're already presently have and using them as to help set the guidelines for the medical program.
How many people are in medical?
I think right now I have 17 people. And typically anywhere from 11 to 15 of us meet every 2 weeks. We're trying to.
In any given day?
At any given time, yeah. And most of the other people that I've collected and assimilated for this program are on the outskirts, like in Albany. There's some in Albany, and I got other people from around the country that actually want to be involved in the protest-like events with us as street medics. But they want to be involved in our street medic program, not from where they're from. Interesting.
Yeah, why is that?
I think that's because what we develop is a real tie-in. I mean, they see the professionalism that we're bringing into the table versus some other street medic programs that aren't quite the same.
In what way?
Our training. When Nancy and I went to D.C., they noticed that we were really well organized with everything that we had and already had our communication set up and everything. And so they adapted to the program that Nancy and I already had set up.
Wow. So you were leaders in the field.
We were kind of leaders in the field, yeah. It was awesome.
Nice. How many people went to Washington, D.C. from Eugene Occupy?
Let's see. From Eugene Occupy itself, there was 3 with me, Nancy 2, that's 5. I think 9 total were at Washington, D.C.
And Occupy helped fund that trip?
Occupy did help fund that trip for 3 of us. Helped pay the gas. Thank you, Occupy.
Yeah. And everybody else just jumped in a car and went.
Yeah, a couple of the nurses had to fly in because they couldn't take the time off work. So
right.
We have to deal with scheduling issues like that. But
definitely,
thank God I had the time. So
yeah. How long were you there?
We drove, so I was gone 7 days. 3 days there, 1 day there. 3 days to get there. Spent 1 day there, 3 days back.
Wow, that's an intense packet.
It was, but it was fun.
But you marched and.
Oh yeah, we marched forever. We marched from the Congress building to the White House and back.
How many people were there then?
During the march, it started out about 1,500. I think it ended about 2,000, maybe more.
Was the press very good about covering it?
In Washington, D.C., they were excellent about covering it, but it seemed like nationally, on the national stage, they just kind of muted it, like it didn't happen very much. What they talked about was how the people needed to get out of D.C. parks, how they needed to close parks down. They didn't talk about the subjects that we brought to Congress itself. But the great thing about media now is that there's so many different media sources you can go online to see the truth.
Right, like this one.
Don't watch KZI, get online, get on YouTube, see someone that was there and watch their camera and see what happened. Right. That's how you get the truth.
Has the media at all been supportive about the Occupy movement in your view?
I think that I think that certain media groups have been awesomely supportive versus the other ones. I think that's typically going to happen in this type of environment. And media, I think that because we're talking about our government, are going to shut us down to a point. Maybe, I don't know if it's fear of the truth or what their issue is, but They're definitely not showing the truth.
Right. It does seem that when people would take a tour of the camp, by the time they got to Occupy, if they had some discomfort in the camp, by the time they got to medical, they were good there. Like, well, I'm really glad you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
You know,
we served kind of a base for a lot of people that were uncomfortable. They stopped by and say hi, and we talked to them. And by the time we were done talking with them, they were fine. It's funny, as I saw many of these so-called news reporters come in and report some of the things that they did, yet they were there by themselves in high skirts and in the cold weather, looking all beautiful, but they had no concerns. And they were telling people, all their friends, that no, you have no worries about being down there at that Occupy Eugene. No one's going to mess with you there. They knew that, and yet they would go and report that they were a different environment. So it's kind of twisted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the world.
Very true. Yeah. Well, I think with medical, because we're so hands-on and we serve such an obvious need, it's difficult for people that are even completely biased against the movement to dismiss our end of it.
Yeah, I think that's atypical for most situations. I think everybody's always pretty much seen medical environment as more of a trusting environment versus a police environment. Police and presence there is not very trusting versus two paramedics.
Right.
You can let them blend in the crowd. You don't even think of them as an objective versus two police officers standing there. You just everybody backs away from them.
Well, when the camp first opened, there was a discussion amongst the protesters of not even let EMTs in, not let, they didn't want anybody that had a jacket to walk into the camp.
And
but
that's
that
fierce,
changed.
That absolutely changed when they realized that the community was made of, there's EMTs and such, and doctors and nurses out there with the same mindset as they had.
Right.
Once they realized that, then it was like, okay, well, then we just got to worry about where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And you can always trust a guy from the wildland.
Right. Right. Yeah, I believe that your presence there really spoke to a lot of people about here's a person, he's on our side.
Yeah.
We're just doing things, and you speak with your actions more than you
I speak
speak
from
with
my
your
heart.
words.
Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing.
It's gotten you in trouble,
It has
hasn't
gotten
it?
me in trouble sometimes. But,
Sure it has.
the fact that people know that what I'm saying is what I feel. It's the truth, and I'm not going to come at them and BS them. So I think that's why they trust me a little more. Let's take the BS out of the game, and we get along a whole lot better.
Yep, very true. So right now you're still serving the homeless.
We are, with the clinics that we have open, and we're trying to implement our street medic program to a full stance, to where we're out there on a daily basis, walking along the streets and providing service to the people that are out there.
All right. There was a couple that came in with their child. They had OHP, but they came into the clinic and said, everything's closed. This is not a situation for a medical emergency. But I was just curious, what's going on with my kid, and it turned out to be an ear infection. And just those are the kind of little teeny stories.
Absolutely.
That I would like to see more often.
Yeah, we've got tons of stories like that. I mean, it comes in so much now that I just store it away because those are my feel goods. That's what keeps me going, is those type of stories. Is when they just didn't have nowhere else to turn, and they turned to us and was like, not a problem. We've got this. And they see their face light up like, really? Is there something? What do we owe you?
Right.
What are you serious? It's free? I'm like, yeah, as it should be.
Yep.
Absolutely should be. And I won't get into that again, but that's why we're here. We're going to fight that.
Yeah, definitely. So do you think that this movement will change the way the medical system conducts itself?
I think that this movement is not only going to change the way the medical system conducts itself, but I think this movement is going to change the way the world conducts itself. I think that this movement is going to go beyond, I think every medical person in the world will stand up and see what's going on here and to want to take part in that. I think it should be part of the training. As becoming a medical doctor, I think that dealing with homeless medicine should be part of the training to de-alienate them from their services while they are a doctor. Because there's a natural prejudice there when they come into their system, because they're homeless just the way they're dirty, dressed, or smell. If we can get rid of that prejudice before they even become doctors, I think that would be a plus too.
Right. Well, hygiene is a really big issue. How do you get access to it?
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do within the task force, is to provide some place or some avenue of way to provide hygiene, at least for people, so that way, working in the medical field, cleanliness is a big issue.
Right, of course.
And if we can at least work on that, we can get rid of probably over half the small problems that plague the emergency departments today with the homelessness, because the homeless not having health care have to go to the emergency room.
Right.
There's nowhere else for them to go.
Right.
And so
has to be the most expensive option.
Which is the most expensive option. And not only that, a typical case would be, say, an alcoholic homeless vet goes in the emergency room because he has pneumonia or has a viral problem going. They give him, he's dehydrated because he's an alcoholic and he's been out in the weather and now he's sick, so he's dehydrated. So they give him IV. During the process of IV, he starts going through DTs. So then they put him in detox. 7 days of detox. There's $250,000 of care right there, totally wasted, and it won't be paid for. Why? Because he needs a beer. There's no one time that person planned on detoxing from alcohol, nor did he want to.
But he was forced into the system.
But he was forced into the system because of a pneumonia. Now, if he could come to us, get the medicine and the care that he needs, and go back out and have his beer, he won't have that problem. We won't have a $250,000 cost in our emergency room.
Right. Just deal with the
So
issue
we're
dealing
looking
with
at
right
saving
now.
millions of dollars of emergency care visits by opening and facilitating these programs. Occupy Eugene came up with that. It was because of Nancy and I sitting within Occupy Eugene and living the mindset that we live that brought this program up.
Right.
And I think this is a program that's going to spread. I
There's-
can't say that enough.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of issues that other committees have come up with just because they had to have a big, hefty dose of reality plopped on their plate. And
That's it,
we're
yeah.
so good at keeping those problems that make us uncomfortable to push those away and instead watch Jersey Shore and,
Yeah, the big bubble in front of your face, that's what makes it easy. But
yeah.
get away from the bubble. Go downtown and look. Actually open your eyes when you drive downtown and look around. Don't just drive by the buildings. Look at the
Right.
people you're driving by. And you'll see what needs to be done. It's pretty simple.
Yep. So do you believe that this is now integrating the community more?
I do. I believe that this, like I keep saying, that Occupy Eugene made this relevant to this community. And I can't tell you, I've been to city club meetings and I've been to all these meetings.
Right.
Now that my presence has requested that now. And so I'm going to these meetings and all of them are talking about the same thing, and that's dealing with action on let's solve this problem. So I'm really proud of this community. I really am. It was saddened at first to see that people, drive by and say, dirty hippies, get a job, and see radio show talk come in and even pester these people even more with just silliness.
Right.
It's kind of sad to see that our logical, intelligent people of the society would come up with such stupidity.
Right. Making these big assumptions.
Yeah, making big assumptions. And if they just came down and spent a day there and talked to people in an open mindset, they would see what's really going on. And I know that half the people that do that would actually take action.
Right.
I mean, they're not disheartened people, they're just blind.
Yeah. I don't recall running into someone recently that said that our economy was in good shape. I don't recall running into someone saying that our healthcare system was working splendidly and that the amount that insurance is involved in is just fantastic and nothing should change. It's not something I can recall. And those are all things that we all are trying to change. So
I don't see them coming with any solutions either. I mean.
But to say the people that are gathering together and say, yeah, these things are broken, we have to fix them.
Yeah.
Oh, your problem is that you just don't have a job. Like, well, even if that was, it's not the problem. Getting a second full-time job, I just don't see myself being able to do that if that is their advice.
Well, I think it's funny is that they all sit there and say, well, we believe in what you guys are doing. We believe in what you're saying. We just don't believe in how you're doing it.
What is it? I don't believe in what y'all are doing.
If you don't like the way I'm doing it, come down here and do it with me.
Right. Yeah.
Just do something then. Don't sit on your butt behind a chair and tell us that we're not doing it right.
I have a problem with people that complain and then do nothing about it.
Absolutely.
That is my personal
Don't pick on
concern.
problems. Come with a solution.
Right.
And that's what we need to do as a country. We need to come in with solutions and stop sitting there and saying, pointing the fingers at who did what and what did what.
Yeah.
Let's solve it.
Yeah.
Let's get done.
Yeah.
We're a get her done nation. Let's get her done.
Yeah. A very diverse group, many different ways of solving it, and you don't have to like every single solution that comes up.
Yeah.
But it might not be a solution for your particular group. It can be a solution for another group, and that you have, as a democracy, we just have to be about that.
Absolutely.
We have to support that. Oh my goodness. So, what else is going on for you?
As far as the medical environment?
In medical, or yeah.
Yeah. We got training coming up. Did I spoke about that? Yeah, we're going to do the Red Cross training with them. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to put everybody in the FEMA system, because I kind of see this in the end, not just being just healthcare for the homelessness. I also seeing if we get the right group of people together, seeing this more on a national level, so we can respond to national response like I do with FEMA, but we can respond as a medical in our area.
Are you talking about making the medical conditions we're dealing with right now for the underserved as a FEMA emergency?
Not at all. I'm talking about making it a natural disaster response team. Mm-hmm. And that means the team that we currently have will respond to places that have earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes and provide health care to the people that are involved within that, the damage, because it's extensive. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of help that needs to be done in those type of environment.
Right.
And medical teams are a short supply.
Yeah.
So,
would we be working with the National Guard, or what would that look like?
Wherever they would send us at that point. It just depends on where they needed us and what we do. But that's, future down the road. Right now, I just want to kind of establish it within our community and get our community settled first, and then we'll start looking outward about other things we can do to help our nation.
So getting that advanced first aid certification that you spoke about would help us be part of a trained team that would be able to, I'm thinking about Haiti and how we sent a bunch of people down there.
Yeah,
can you see it going international?
They're called tactical emergency response teams. And that's one that I'm typically on every year and respond on. But I think that, and the one I'm on is a complete medical response team. What I'm implementing, what I would like to implement is every street medic program around the nation to be that medical response team for that area. I just think that's a great organization connection for our street medic programs already, that we've had 3 months and we're already together. So
Right. It's a good team.
We're growing.
Yeah. Well, who all is on the team now?
There's a lot of people on the team. I don't think they want me to sit here and name them all off,
but from what walks of life? Basically,
everybody on our teams are doctors, nurses, or trained as such. Typically, we won't have someone on our team. Anybody, if you have a first aid certification, you can be on my team. And it just depends on what job you'll be doing on that team. We could use it to hand out pamphlets or flyers or socks or toothbrushes or shampoos. There's all kinds of things that anybody can do within our team. And considering the fact that our team is an all-volunteer team, you're going to have all different kinds of backgrounds coming into it. So we'll be able to cover a lot of different areas.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I noticed that made the Occupy camp so successful is we had everything right there. So we had our medical tent, and then, people are coming in because they've had hypothermia, and there's the clothes that are free right behind us, and the information booth is next to that, and you can get information about where to go to get further services. And then there was the kitchen for food, and a place to warm up, and there was places for tents, and it was like a one-stop shopping center.
It seemed as such, yeah.
Yeah.
But all provided by our community.
Yeah. And the Egan warming centers have been influenced by what happened at Occupy as well. They're open more often now, I believe, and they're offering a training to the community. Do you have any information on that?
Actually, yeah. Their training was yesterday. No, it was next Saturday. I don't recall the exact times, but they have opened the training up. And as we shut down at Occupy Eugene, the warming center said that they would pick up an extra spot, an extra beds to be able to balance out the release of the people from our camp. And it was open for 2 days and shut down. And they said because of lack of staffing. So what Occupy Eugene has done is for the last 2 training sessions that they had, this previous one, the one coming up, I think we've had 10 to 15 people from up Occupy Eugene, people stepping up to volunteer for those programs. So we'll be filling those Egan Warming Centers up, and there will be no excuse for not having them open anymore.
Right. Yeah. How many warming centers do they have currently? Do you know?
I don't know right off the top of my head.
But they're scattered throughout the community.
They are scattered without the community.
Yeah. I know there's a forecast that there'll be approximately 1,000 more foreclosures in Lane County this coming year. Do you see that as influencing how?
Well, our homelessness issue is not going to do nothing but grow. And that's because of these foreclosures that are coming up and the way our economy is and the way the corporate greed. I mean, it's all relevant to each other. So this homeless issue is growing. It's not going away, and it's getting bigger. And we're dealing with families and kids. We're not dealing with just adult men that can handle themselves, what our government thought for before. Now we have families, we have communities that are going down because of this. We need to stand up and take care of these people in our community.
Right. So the population is becoming more diverse, as is their need base.
Yeah, I mean, I have a guy that was out of the camp that worked for Satellite on the Glass. He was one of the inventors on the glass they used on the space shuttle. And he was down in camp and homeless because he lost his family to a drunk driver. So emotionally, he lost his life and gave up. The man's super intelligent, has a lot to give this community. He needs this community to wrap around him and show him the love that he's missing.
Right.
That's all we need to do. And now that we have, he's talking to people. He hasn't done that in years. So there's a lot more to this.
Right. Right. Well, America prides itself as being an individualistic society. We all take care of ourselves and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But in reality,
there's no resources to do so. What are you going to pull up on?
Right. If there's no bootstraps.
There's no bootstraps.
There's no boots. Yeah. So do you think that this approach will change not only the way we do medicine, but the way we conduct ourselves as a society?
I do. I do. I think it's definitely going to change our community here, but also our society as a whole. I think that for too long we've let greed overtake what we knew was right. And so now it's time to take right back and let greed go away a little bit. We have enough money.
Yep, we do.
We have enough money, man.
Many people have a outstanding collection.
Yeah.
No.
Can't take it to you to the grave with you.
No, you can't.
And I guess they got a rule: the more you have when you die, I guess you win. But I don't think so.
Yeah, very true. Well, we only have a few more minutes left here. Is there something else that you'd like to talk about before?
No. Well, yes, actually.
Okay.
I'd like to see more people stand up and take charge of what you believe in and come down and be part of Occupy Eugene. I think that whatever talents that you have, it can be used. And if you want a great feeling inside, you want to feel good about yourself, you want to feel like you're taking care of your community and your family's future, this is where you need to be. We are the new movement. We are the new world. It's time for people to step up. And I can only do my part, but if you did your part, we'd have one hell of a system going. So I think I just said a cuss word, but I think you can handle it. Stand up. Stand up for what you believe in. Come and join us at Occupy Eugene. Come and join me with the Street Medic program. If you're interested in helping out with that, you can get a hold of me at firemanterry@gmail.com.
All right. Very good. I have a couple more little questions that I believe, have time for. Can you talk about... I'm just losing it here. Sorry. When you first got out of the wilderness and you started hearing about Occupy, what did you first hear about?
Well, I heard the typical bunch of hippies camping down at the thing protesting again. And that's what, the atypical attitude I heard from my friends and family. But when I went down there and heard what was going on, it was a whole different game. That's the thing about, you can't believe what other people are saying to you. You can't go by that atypical attitude. If you run around your life like that, then you're wasting a lot of good things in your life. So when I went down there and saw it for myself, I saw a different thing. And now my family believes differently also because of what I'm saying to them. And I think that we all need to do that. We just need to all start talking about what's really going on within Occupy Eugene to our families and friends so they understand and they can spread that out. Because the more that we get the word out of what we're standing for, you have to be ignorant not to stand up and really believe and what we're standing for.
Or lied to.
Or the 1%.
Right. They're very comfortable.
Very comfortable and not have any concerns.
Well, even parts of the 1% have stood up and said the system is
Absolutely.
corrupt. And, if I don't feel good about it and I'm, rolling in the dough, that's a sign things are bad.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And signs are bad. And the more and more the 1% stand up and say, okay, I'm ready for change, the more and more these things will change. Because they need more and more of their people to say, this needs to be done.
Right.
And so we need to commence them.
What about with the way that we're dealing with health insurance? I mean, that's on the table.
That's a big issue on the table. And there's a unified health system coming up that's out there. That's a perfect system that we could be using in this country, and it's being ignored right now. So I really hope that people would look online and pay attention to that. It's called the Unified Health System, and doctors mad as hell have that on their site also. And the more support we can get on that, the better it is. When that is a single payee system that provides health insurance for everyone within our country, and that's important.
Vermont, I think it was, I'm probably getting the state wrong, put together a universal health care.
Yeah, there is a state that already has a universal health care system for their state, which is awesome. I think that each state should pick it up on their own, but I really think that if the government's going to be involved in our daily affairs, that's something that they should be involved with.
And how do we pay for that, or is it just from the money that we saved by? Because ignoring the problem is a huge economic problem. Ignorance causes more bills.
Absolutely, and I don't know which way that they would go on that. I just know that it needs to be done. As far as the unified health system goes, I think it's a pay system according to how much money you make, and I think that would work all the way through.
Okay. Do you think that there's a way for people that are living on the street to get access to that?
There is, and I think it's an avenue that's what we need to do, is really connect people to those systems that are available to them. That's part of the problem.
So one of the ways that they could be connected to it is through the Street Medic program.
That's right.
Having someone that they trust going to them in their place where they live.
In their environment. Absolutely. I think that's the tyrant.
Why don't people come to the clinics?
I think they're scared.
From their past the way they were treated in the past?
Yeah. There's a lot of prejudice against that. Some of them have warrants, which doesn't, a person having a warrant doesn't mean they don't need health care. And they should be able to provide a place where they're not feeling threatened for their life or safety.
It's not our job to judge.
It's not our job to judge.
It's our job to help. Absolutely. Well, we just have a few more seconds here, so I want to take this time to thank you for coming on to Occupy TV. It was a pleasure to speak to you.
I appreciate it. It's good seeing you again.
Yep. Good seeing you.
Protest tonight at 5.
Yep, protest. We're going to be there. Okay, well, thank you for watching Occupy TV. My name again, Susie Arlupe, and this is Terry Purvis from Occupy Medical. Bye. No? Do I keep talking?
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that?